Halito to all. Tribal jurisdiction number 3. Yesterday, we were discussing the building of an understanding of tribal jurisdiction on these particular formats of video and my providing communication to members of the tribal community here on Turtle Island in America. A brief moment, we're going to talk about identity, what's called Indian identity. But before, I was thinking yesterday what I would initiate speaking about first, and one of my daughters here in Flint happened to experience something at school where one of her classmates, typical thing, little Caucasian girl, called her a nigger. And my daughter said she wanted to break her off. I said, why? She said, because she called me a nigger. I said, well, you should have, and I threw my arms up in muscle style and said, you should have said I'm super nigger. Because I showed her later that the Oxford Dictionary, 1861, identifies nigger as an American Indian. Nigger as an American Indian identity. So for a long time, this country has used it as a derogative term, but I'm sure it came from some COINTELPRO of those who were devising and developing this country. Let's make nigger a harsh term. Let's use it indiscriminately. Nigger. My nigger. Still nigger. So I guess today I'm, after having that discussion with my daughter, I could actually say that I'm yet again pleased to be super nigger. I'm that one. I'm that dark one. I'm that more. I'm that energy to bring forth the light of American Aborigine identity. I'm looking here at what's in the U.S. Code, 1903 definitions for American Indian. And I would like for individuals to go to 1903. Just simply type in on your computer 1903 Indian identity definitions. And you will find the definitions according to the United States government. You always want to utilize their definitions. Their definitions in most cases are usually unchanged, and if they change it, they're unable to change a previous standing because they didn't put it in place. Institutions prior to them put those things in place, and they can't remove them. Some of them they can, but not without stirring up a huge wonderment as to why these things are being removed. American Indian, nigger, Oxford Dictionary, 1861. In a lot of cases with members across the country, individuals are having problems filing their trust charter notices and that sort of thing at the county level, understand that these counties exist in states, and these states are individual countries that became a part of the United States or the United Countries of America. If you are having a problem, you can forward those things to Atlanta for them to be filed, and they will be mailed back to you. Members know who to contact and how to contact, and should do so if they run into a problem at their county, country level in the state that they're currently inhabiting. It's important for us to know that we are not Native Americans. Native Americans are registered members of the Bureau of Indian Affairs. That's the BIA, the Bureau of Indian Affairs. Native Americans are registered participants with the BIA. If you are not a participant with the BIA, you are not Native American in law. To claim to be Native American and not be a member of the BIA is identity theft and fraud. The legal constructs that exist in this country for classifications, regardless of what was removed by Barack a couple of years ago concerning removing Negro and other titles from the record and whatnot. We have American Indians, many of who are classified as freedmen, black farmers, unrecognized tribes across the country. Those are American Indians under the legal structure of the United States. Most of them are not BIA recognized. A great many of them are acknowledged by the BIA. Acknowledgement means that they are acknowledged in the records of the federal government as existing, but not really being Indian, but existing. Recognized tribes are those that get the casinos and other things of that nature. Then you have those recognized tribes who no longer wanted to participate in the efforts of the BIA and the federal government, like members of the Onondaga, Lakota Nation, and so many other American Indian groups, which include the American Aborigine. The American Aborigine, in the instance of law, is not yet classified by U.S. codes and legislative tamperings, because until recent, not many would classify themselves as Aborigine, being confused with Australia and other indigenous countries. But here in this land, we have the American Aborigine. You have the Native American, which is those bloodline people. They are a part of the American Aborigine mix, as are the American Indians. They are all a part of the American Aborigine mix. The term American Aborigine has international position and power in law, American Aborigine, because the American Aborigine was not created by the United States. The Native American was. The Indian was created in America by the United States. And as an Indian, you fall up under a particular jurisdiction. There's a thing called Public Law 280 that the United States put in place. California has it, and a few other states, about 6, 7 states total. Public Law 280 means that state courts can proceed against an Indian as if that Indian was a citizen. But we're talking 6 to 7 states. That means that there are 40 plus states that do not have Public Law 280 as a tool to oppress tribal people. That means that those other states are extremely subject to tort and claims against them for violations of oppression, violations of diversity concerns. You name it, the violations have already been made. It's just that we are not privy to understanding what that violation really is and how to ascend upon that violation with remedy. The United States classified Indians who were not registered with the federal government and Indians who did not want to take part in citizenry affairs. They called those particular tribal people Indians not taxed. That's a term. That's a legal term. Indians not taxed is a legal term. As an Indian not taxed, you are free on the land, and the land still belongs to you under 18 U.S.C. 1151. All of these lands that were not purchased and no bill of sale in place is considered Indian territory under the law, under U.S. law, and for sure international law. But when we don't know these things, we succumb and say that, okay, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to violate the laws of Texas, Tennessee, Wisconsin, whatever. So you're admitting a guilt. You're admitting that you offended that entity, that state. We've got to stop criminalizing ourselves. We have to begin to change the way that we speak. Speak the words of power so that when you speak to these people who are oppressing your people, they sit down. They sit down. We've had a number of experiences as we've been traveling the country, working with scattered members, and because they're so scattered, that's why this particular vehicle is now being used, and the shutting down and hacking of the naaipi.com page has brought us to this point. And again, as I stated yesterday, it's a wonderful thing that there are no lemons, just lemonade. And when shit is thrown at us, we place the sawdust on top of it and keep on walking. That eliminates the smell. until we can shake it off. Indians not taxed. That means that you are unregulated. That means that you are not a citizen of the United States. You are not this Native American that's controlled by Congress. All Native Americans are controlled by Congress because the trust charter and document that they sign gives the United States BIA, Department of Interior, that authority over them. So they must follow the laws. And as I was stating yesterday, the courts that were recently provided to tribes across the country by the United States, it's a nice gesture, but the power is limited. The power gives the tribes the similar jurisdiction of a state court in Alabama, just on a tribal reservation. And if you happen to be a member of that tribe, then they can pull you out of the state court and bring you over to their court, where they might be a little bit more lenient. They might be. Depends on how they feel. Depends on who's greasing whose pocket. It all works the same way. But this classification of Indian not taxed is one that has not been yet explored by the United States judicial climate. And they will address it because the American Aborigine, in his and her awakening, is an Indian not taxed. Because he's not a part of the BIA. He's not of the classification of registered Indian with the state. There are state tribes and there are federal tribes. A sad thing about so many of these tribes is that these tribes go out and they set themselves up as the Okaniba Nation or whatever, and they go and incorporate as a 501c3, not realizing that incorporating as a 501c3 as a tribe, as an Indian group, gives the state complete jurisdiction over your tribe. You lose all of your sovereignty. Out the door, immediately. The moment that the Secretary of State accepts the document from you, it's over. You are a state-regulated tribe. The Narragansett up in Rhode Island. These people are ancient, and they have recorded data showing that they've been in place for more than 600 years. But the Narragansett Nation was established as a 501c3. And when they decided to build a smoke shop on their land, the state police came in and tore it down and arrested people who were from a different nation. Unfortunately, they were from a nation that had given their sovereignty to the state by establishing themselves under a 501c3. Tribes don't have to do that. They already have the power of a 501c3 and a 501 whatever the United States chooses to create. The tribe has the power. The great law of peace, the great tree of the Onondaga, the snipe plans, the holders of the fire. That's where the United States got their power from. That's where they got their democracy from. Then they convoluted it with shit. And it became the United States judicial system. A cesspool that so many niggers, mind you, Oxford said that niggers are American Indians. So don't be offended by my niggerizing anyone that might fit that category. We've got to find ourselves in an educated position, self-educated, with the right information, with the information that's beneficial to our generations to come. We must know that we are not Native Americans. We are American Aborigine. We are Indians not taxed. That means that when we go to a government agency, any government agency, for example, if we decide that we're going to go to the Article 3 court, currently the Article 3 court provides that everyone must pay a fee except for one who's a pauper, but they have this provision that if you file a case as a pauper, then at the judge's choosing, they can throw it out anytime they choose, anytime they want. And because that was done to us in a few cases, not all, but because that was done to us, we decided to research a bit further, and we found the exemptions for Indians not taxed. We found that any fee that is charged by a government agency for services provided, that fee is a tax under the law. Indians not taxed. According to the Census Bureau, Indians not taxed are those that live on the fringes of society. Don't get that twisted with your physical location. It is your consciousness and your mindset that causes you to be existing on the fringes of society. Just as being a minority does not mean that your people are the least amount calculated. You are a minority because your people are the ones that do the least amount of thinking. And the majority are those that do the thinking. So it doesn't matter that in America, the darker people way outnumber the lighter people. The lighter people are still called the majority. And the darker ones are called the minority because they don't know. They don't know that nigger is American Indian. We have to re-examine these trick words and trick phrases as we move forward in understanding law and the provisions of law. TUSHKA